Hello friends, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you get to see this video. Welcome to another episode of Laws and Scriptures 360. I also want to officially welcome my new subscribers. And if you're still viewing my channel and you've not subscribed, I want to encourage you to please click the subscribe button. You would not regret your decision. Thank you. So we're going to continue from where we left off in the part 1 of Should I Sue My Church? So for you to understand what we are discussing here today, you have to go back to see the video of part 1 of this series. You would appreciate whatever we have to say here today. So in the part 1, we talked about defamation, and we talked about the two major types of defamation, the written and the spoken. The written is called libel and the spoken is called slander. So we also mentioned that there are things that a person who is claiming defamation must prove. So those are the things we are going to outline here today. And we are also going to talk about the legal implications of my client's action, my proposed client's action. And we're going to also look at the scriptural implications as well. We are also going to look at the opinion of different people, some people, concerning this subject matter, and then we'll draw the curtain from there. So there are three basic things a person who claims defamation must prove. The first is that the defaming statement was, like in this case, because this is a case of slander, so to say, it's an alleged case of slander, so to say. So we would be looking at the spoken defamation. So, well, my client in this instance, rather my proposed client in this instance, would have to prove before the court that the defaming statement, the alleged defaming statement made by her pastor was false. It was wrong. She has to prove that it was wrong. Because if he made a statement that was true and probably gotten from his privileged position as a pastor, then she would not be entitled to damages arising from defamation. So the statement must be false. Secondly, the statement must be made before people. It should not be a statement that was made between both of them. A third party or different people must have been there and must have heard when he made the said statement, the defaming statement. And then finally, she has to also prove that she suffered some form of harm. Like in her own case, she said she lost a huge contract because one of the persons who heard him, was going to give her the job, but because of what he heard or she heard, she lost that contract. So she must also prove that she suffered some form of disadvantage or injury or harm as a result of the defaming statement. These are the three things she must prove to be entitled to damages arising from defamation. So, in this instance, my client is claiming that the statement that was made by her pastor was false. She's also claiming that he made it before the congregation, open church, and she's also claiming that she lost a huge contract as a result of the statement that he made, and that she's going to also give me a video evidence of everything that transpired. Now, considering the evidence and also considering the scenario, as a legal practitioner, I would say my client has a 90% chance of winning this case, because I mean, she has sufficient proof for her claim. So she would have discharged the balance of probability on her side. So my client has the 90% chances of winning this case and being entitled to whatever she claims as damages arising from the action of her pastor. Now, this is the legal perspective. And then the fact that he is her pastor does not mean that he is above the law. He is liable, or he will be liable for any crime or offense he commits. So he will definitely pay for defamation if the court finds him guilty, or if the court finds him liable. In this instance, if the court finds him liable. However, looking at it now from the scriptural perspective, the Bible in 1 Corinthians 6, 1 to 8 talks about, in that place, Paul was telling the believers, to refrain from suing each other in secular courts. Now, my client is saying that for a large chunk of her life, she has been in this church working and serving God. And, this pastor has been her pastor and all that. Yes, she's hot. Yes, probably the pastor is guilty. But as a Christian, as a believer, is she meant to go straight to court if she is aggrieved by the actions of her pastor? Paul is saying in 1 Corinthians 6, verse 1 to 8, that we shouldn't go straight, whether it's between pastor or between brethren in church, that the first point of call shouldn't be court. And he further said, or rather the book of Matthew now said, outlined steps for resolving conflicts within church, among church members. The book of Matthew outlined different steps that should be taken. One of them, Matthew chapter 18, verse 15 to 17. One of them is that the matter should be reported to, the person should first be called. I asked my proposed client, have you discussed this thing with your pastor? Does he even know that you are angry? Does he even know that what he said hurts you? She said no. I said, you would have spoken with him, because that place in Matthew says the first step to resolving conflict or issues or misunderstanding between brethren in church is first communicate your grievance with the person who grieved you. And then if the person does not make any effort to reconcile or to resolve the dispute, you call the elders of the church and report. If the person still refuses before the elders of the church, just maybe, you can now begin to consider going to court to get redress. But in this instance, my proposed client had not taken any of this effort as a believer, as a member of this church, as someone who has been serving God, in this church. And she was just consumed by anger, and, she was hot, she was embarrassed, which is natural as a human being for her to feel that way. But what she is about to do, is it the right step? Just maybe if she calls the attention of the pastor, who knows, the pastor may apologize and publicly retract his statement. But she is still consumed by hurt, and as believers, the Bible says that we should be angry, but we should not sin. The Bible says we should be angry, but we should not sin. Now, a lot of people have given their opinion about 1 Corinthians 6, verse 1 to 8, and Matthew 18, verse 15 to 17. And most of them are saying that what Paul is saying, or what the Bible is saying, is not It's not, what do they call it? It's not disputes that are actionable. I mean, the misunderstanding that should be resolved in this manner in Matthew 18:15 to 17 should not be misunderstanding or disputes that are actionable in court, but it should be simple disagreements, that anybody who is found liable or guilty for any offense, whether the person is in church or not, the person should face the wrath of the law. Now, what do you think? What do you think? I don't mind hearing our thoughts. You can drop your comments in the comment section. Let's know. What do you think my proposed client should do? Should she go ahead with her action in court? Should she withdraw the case, or should she proceed to persecute her pastor in church? What will be her fate after this? I'd like to hear her thoughts. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.